Okay, so hello, welcome to my review of The Ghost Monument, Doctor Who, Episode 2, Series 11. So I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was even better than the first, and I thought the first was great. So let's go through. I've got notes here, and I'm just going to go through and talk about stuff. So first of all, the titles, the new opening titles, I think are beautiful. I adore the colors. I love purple, and there's lots of purpley colors. And it's very spacey. I love that it looks like a modern, updated version of like Pertwee's titles, like the early '70s titles, because it's just kind of moving shapes and colors. I like the way the credits look in it, and the cut to the title I think is nice. I miss the length and the complexity of previous titles, especially the previous titles like Capaldi's titles. I do kind of miss that, but I think they're going for a sleek, simplistic, like, here's who's in it, here's who directed it, here's the title and who wrote it, and it's just kind of simple. There's not a lot of craziness, which is fine. And again, it's beautiful. It's just not, I guess it's not what I'm used to in the modern series, although I've watched all the classic series and I'm fine with the titles being simpler there, so I'll get used to it. Again, I think they're beautiful. I think they're great. I love them. The opening with our group separated to a piece on two spaceships is really great. And as you kind of slowly figure out what's happened, they kind of reveal it through clever dialogue. That's awesome. And the action of it all leading down to, a spaceship crashing, and finally our group is all together. That's great. It's really well written and well directed. And especially there's a single take shot of, I'm sure there were multiple takes, but it's like a single shot on Enzo's ship with the Doctor and Yaz kind of running around, and it's really well directed and really impressive. This is probably a good time to mention that the cinematography is still absolutely gorgeous. It looks amazing. Last week's was in Sheffield and it looked great, so it was definitely going to look better when they get to Alien Worlds, and it really does. The planet looks beautiful. The shots that they get are gorgeous, and all the stuff on the spaceships is gorgeous. All the stuff in space is gorgeous. It's just beautiful. Yeah, love it. The story I think is great. It's better than last week's. The idea of an intergalactic space race is really entertaining, and the way that the two competitors are fleshed out is really great. I think they're Enzo and Angstrom, I think is their names. So yeah, their characters are really fun and interesting. It's just fun to watch, like watching these characters try to survive on a hostile planet is just it's just an entertaining story. But the ending where the Doctor mentions having an idea and then they walk in the tent together, it's a little rushed the way it's paced. I could have used a little more kind of hanging room, because we've been leading up to this whole point of they've got this feud, but the two competitors clearly have kind of not an affection for each other, and maybe in a romantic sense, but they have a respect for each other. And I think it would have been great if we had kind of let that hang for a second when they realized, yeah, we need to go in together. And it was just a little rushed. But again, that's a minor issue. I think that it's a great story. I don't like that the way they convinced the controller of the race to let them both win by threatening him. I think that's a little off base. But overall, it's a good way to end the story. And the story is good. The characters are all really strong. All three of the one-off characters have development. Even the controller, I can't remember his name, but he's got a little bit of development too. And of course, Enzo and Angstrom have. Is it Angstrom? I think it's Angstrom. They have development as well, and they're really fun. They're fun to be around for an hour. And then our four mains are really, really strong. Yaz, Ryan, and Graham handling this alien world and dealing with situations like the scene where Graham and Ryan fix the boat engine, and there's the scene where the three of them have a little moment together talking about, can the Doctor really save us? And they're like, well, look at what she did last week. That was great. So that's all incredible and very entertaining and interesting to see their characters developing. That's great. That scene where the Doctor sees the ghost monument and sees that it's the TARDIS, that's a great scene. You can just see in her eyes, she's like, well, there it is. I gotta go get it. I was right. It's here. I gotta go find it. and then her actually reuniting with it at the end and like touching the sign and it opens for her because she's lost her key. That's just beautiful. I love that. The Doctor is really, really, really great. Her performance is incredibly strong, and I can feel her character developing a little bit more. She still kind of seems like she's just goofy and fun. There's, you know, little lines like she lends Graham a pair of sunglasses that she says were Pythagoras's. And there's lots of clever dialogue like that and clever lines like that throughout. In fact, I mentioned last week that I had some issues with the dialogue. I don't really have any issues with the dialogue this week. I might have been in a mood, but I think it's really strong this week. I mean, all I can say is it's really well written. I think the dialogue is really great. And so anyway, off on that tangent, there are moments with the Doctor where you can sense there's going to be more depth to her developing character. So there's that scene with the talking sheet, and it mentions her being the timeless child, and there's something hidden in her knowledge, and she was abandoned and unknown. And I don't know, maybe they're gonna kind of try to add a little more mystery to her, maybe try to put the Who back in Doctor Who, and maybe there's something we'll get more development on later. So that's really cool. Another thing I say about the Doctor, she's constantly out of breath and very energetic, very wise despite her apparent age, and very kind. She's always apologizing and saying thank you. But she's also very sarcastic and very funny. In fact, I would like to say she's just like Peter Davison, but in the modern era, like a modern version of the Fifth Doctor, and I really could not be happier about it. She's exactly the kind of Doctor I love, and I love watching her. She's just so good as the Doctor. I love it. So the idea of this hostile alien planet with, you know, deadly, untouchable water and killer robots and scary, ghostly sheets that'll suffocate you is really great. I think the kind of setup for our main setting is excellent. The sheets are a bit of an odd monster. I don't know how scary they are, but they're serviceably creepy. The one thing I'm not too sure about is the incorporation of the Stenza again. I don't know if they're going to lead to some sort of series arc with that or what they're going to do. I think it's a good sci-fi idea to have this evil alien race torture a bunch of scientists into creating a bunch of deadly weapons that then destroy those scientists' planet. It's dark, it's sick, but it's the kind of thing that I could see Big Finish doing. And I really like it for that. But I just don't know why it had to be the Stenza that were the evil alien race, other than just for the, you know, mild callback. The Call of Duty scene where Ryan goes crazy with a gun and shoots a bunch of alien robots is very funny. I don't know if I see Ryan actually doing that, but it's a nice way to establish that the Doctor uses brains instead of violence and kind of get that information to the new companions. Onto those companions, we get a nice hint at Yaz's character and her kind of history more. She talks about her family, and that's really nice. And then she talks about a dad and a sister that she doesn't super duper get along with, but then Angstrom says, you know, don't take them for granted, and she kind of has a look like, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't. I love that Graham is trying to reach out to Ryan. I think that they're, you know, again, there's that scene where they're fixing the engine and they kind of have a nice little moment there. I love seeing that relationship develop. I love that Graham calls Ryan son. I think that that's, you know, he's trying to reach out, and I'm glad they're showing that. Ryan continuing to be brave is amazing, and the moment where the Doctor acknowledges it and says, you know, you're fantastic. The fact that you're going through this is amazing, and you're dealing with it. I think that's really awesome. It's nice to see that. The moment where, at the end, where the Doctor thinks that the TARDIS isn't going to be there and that she can't get them home is a little odd, because it's not like she does anything clever to fix it, so it doesn't prove to the companions that, you know, I can get you guys out of just about anything. The TARDIS just kind of appears, and the Doctor's surprised by it. I just don't know why they thought it was necessary to put the characters through that moment of like, oh no, we're going to die on this alien planet. There is a nice kind of shift in the scene where the new companions kind of tell the Doctor, you know, no, we're a team now, we'll get through this, we'll be fine. So it shows that the new crew trust each other and they're going to be stronger as friends, and I think that that's great. I guess it just weirded me out a little that the TARDIS wasn't just there. It just didn't seem completely necessary, but it wasn't terrible. The scene where the Doctor and companions see the inside of the TARDIS for the first time is great. I always love that scene, and the reactions are nice. It's nice to see that. I want to talk about the new TARDIS interior. I love the exterior. I think that the exterior is beautiful. I don't think that the new interior is particularly for me. I don't like it that much. So the console looks too small around a time rotor that's too big, and the room is kind of claustrophobic. Doesn't look like there's a lot of room to be in it. There's not like levels to it like the previous one. It's just kind of like this flat, kind of tight room, and it doesn't feel lived in. Like there's no chairs. Even to an extent, the Russell T Davies era TARDIS interior felt kind of lived in. This doesn't feel lived in at all, but it also doesn't feel like a fancy spaceship because it looks too messy and it's too dark as well. There's not enough light in there, so it's not like, you know, clean and sleek like the classic era TARDISes were. I don't like the colors. I don't like the black and yellow design aesthetic. I think it looks kind of ugly. I don't like that it has an hourglass. That's a little on the nose. There's an hourglass on the console, which again is tiny, kind of, it's like a tiny little keyboard, and then there's an hourglass on it, which is just silly. I like that it gives the Doctor a biscuit. That's kind of weird, but also kind of cute. Gives her a little snack. Yeah, again, I like the exterior. I just don't like the interior. And especially, I really don't like it in comparison to the previous one, which I actually preferred Matt Smith's version of it, but I still loved Capaldi's version. And yeah, I mean, that's my favorite one, is the previous one over all the TARDISes in the history of the show. I loved that Smith Capaldi one. It looked both like a spaceship and like a room that someone lived in, and it was gorgeous. And this one, I think, kind of pales in comparison, to be honest. It's not gonna ruin the show. It's not gonna be the end of the world. And there were plenty of people who hated the Russell T Davies era TARDIS, and plenty of people who, you know, hated the first Matt Smith TARDIS, and, you know, he'll get used to it. The one thing I will say that could potentially make it kind of difficult is that the lighting in it is bad. And that was kind of an issue in the first and even second series of the new show with Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant's first series. The lighting in the TARDIS was like dark and green, so it's kind of hard to see the characters. But you know, it's just something you're gonna have to deal with. Hopefully they'll see and get comments and be like, hey, you know, we need to lighten up the TARDIS a little bit. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just I wanted to mention that I don't really like the new TARDIS, but that's okay. You know, there was going to be something. I love the new Doctor and the new writers and the new everything, and everything's great, and the new Sonic and everything's great. There was going to be one thing that, you know, it's just the way it goes. Not everything's going to be perfect. I don't know how anyone else feels because I haven't really looked, so I don't know if I'm going to be kind of blasphemous here with my opinions on the new TARDIS, but I just don't care for it. But moving on, to get back into positivity, this story is great. It serves as a great kind of continued introduction to our main characters and us getting to know them, but it's also a great introduction to what a normal adventure with the Doctor is going to be like for the three new companions. So it really works as its place in the series, and also just as a story. It's just I found I really got invested in the two racers, and I really like the way that it paid off with them winning together and getting a split win. So yeah, really good stuff. You nailed it, Chibbles, Chibnals, Chibcheru. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Thank you so much for watching. This episode was great. What do I say at the end of these videos? I guess I have a Twitter and a podcast so you can check out. I really should script these from now on, but it's just it would take way too long. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode too. And bye.